Gaming has peaked. Think about it. The games industry is in a major stagnant mode. Fans across the world are waiting for the next big AAA game. They're not impressed. They're not excited, and some of our biggest and favorite studios and publishers are failing to meet sales metrics and win over their fans. There's only one thing they can do to save gaming, and that's going back to 2007. Let's go back to 2007. Hashtag was added to our vocabulary, linking us on the web and tagging social posts, memes, and overused phrases like chillax, bae, shook, peeps, noob, and bling. Let's talk about 2007 pop culture. Prince makes it Purple Rain with an electrifying jaw-dropping performance.
Y'all wanna sing tonight?
And guitar solo for the Super Bowl. 2007 was the era of slick designs for technology and mobile phones. The iPhone makes its debut and kicks off the next 20 years of touchscreen smartphones. Transformers made a cinematic return with Michael Bay producing the 1980s inspired film starring Shia LaBeouf and the iconic Optimus Prime. The year has been retrospectively considered one of the best and most influential in video game history due to the release of numerous critically acclaimed, commercially successful, and influential titles across all platforms and genres, and at the time marked the birth of some of the best video game franchises. Think about your favorite video games of all time. Think about the games that shaped and formed you as a fan you are today. Think about the franchises that are memorable and impressionable to you. Gaming actually peaked in 2007. It's most likely that your favorite era of gaming has come from 2007 and is now long gone. Smack dab in the middle of the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Nintendo Wii generation. Look at the Xbox 360, PS3 era, which we call Generation 7. In 2007 alone, just in the early stages of that generation, we had the juggernaut hits like BioShock, Halo 3, Mass Effect, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Super Mario Galaxy, and the first Assassin's Creed. These were the games that broke new ground and modernized gaming in a way that had never been done before. A melting of cinematic visuals, high-quality graphics, and immersive gameplay that hit on all cylinders. Games that looked as great as they played, and the stories felt as real and immersive and lifelike as they did in their action movies we watched at the time. This was a full apex of gaming where it had all finally come together. The world of gaming was finally coming into its own with the most impressive generation of defining consoles, starting with the Xbox 360 from Microsoft. The Xbox 360 showed a leap in graphics far beyond the original Xbox, and by 2007, with just 2 years under its belt, the 360 was deeply embroiled in a hardware fault famously known as the Red Ring of Death. Well over half of the millions of Xbox 360 consoles sold were in process of being returned by customers to be repaired by Microsoft for an overheating issue. But 2007 marked the new wave of Xbox 360 consoles with this design flaw corrected. And by 2007, there were so many games lined up that Xbox fans didn't care and patiently awaited the repairs and replacements. This was also the golden era of game creation, where you would get 3 to 4 sequels in a franchise, with 4 Gears of War games, 4 Halo games, and 3 Resistance titles, 3 BioShocks in the franchise, all because game development took 1 or 2 years and cost a tenth of the budget we're seeing in the 2020s. The PlayStation 3 launched overpriced, but by 2007, it was offering an incredible graphics console with a 6-axis motion controller and a ton of exclusive PlayStation franchises. In 2007, the PlayStation 3 was extremely popular and provided healthy competition in the console space. With Infamous, Uncharted, Ratchet & Clank, and Killzone, PlayStation had a ton of games on offer by 2007 and was hitting a high mark for the console. But by 2007, there was one console that would rule them all. It was the king of consoles, a surprisingly small but globally popular, and even hard to find in 2007, the Nintendo Wii. The Nintendo Wii created a slightly underpowered console that boasted a surprising gimmick that won the world over immediately, and that was the integration of motion controller joysticks called the Wiimote. By 2007, the Nintendo Wii was only a couple of months old and won the world over, with motion-powered games like Wii Sports, Wii Bowling, and the Wii Fit. And as successful as the Nintendo Wii was, the actual highest-selling console in 2007 was still going to Nintendo Wii and their handheld DS. 2007 kicked off the craze of motion controls and interactive party games thanks to Nintendo's Wii, and the birth of one of the most popular and lucrative franchises in that gaming decade was the introduction of Rock Band, which spawned the incredible family and friend team-up for living room concerts. Playing on plastic 5-button guitars was already wildly popular thanks to Guitar Hero, but now the music had transcended from guitar to bass, drums, and vocals. 2007 was an era of large flat-panel plasma TVs, home stereo sound systems connected to your console, with Rock Band touting about 60 songs. Your friends and family filled their living room corners with plastic musical instruments for parties and late-night jams. In 2007, gaming was a global phenomenon that was split into two camps: the casual motion and rhythm-based gaming fans on Nintendo Wii, Rock Band, or Guitar Hero, and then the hardcore, mature AAA gaming fan. And this year was about to bring them some of the best games they'd ever play. Activision had been bringing first-person shooter fans a World War II experience behind the rifle with Call of Duty, but in 2007, Activision exploded out of the gate with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This was the first time a true cinematic blockbuster movie-like experience was in your hands. The graphics looked incredibly realistic for the time, the cutscenes looked and felt like real life, and the gritty, far too close to home conflict going on in the early 2000s overseas was expertly realized, and fans flocked to the Call of Duty Modern Warfare game in record numbers, in single player and especially online, because Call of Duty 4 also offered a robust multiplayer suite which became a worldwide phenomenon, dominating Xbox Live in multiplayer lobbies around the world, with over 20 million units sold worldwide and people playing across the globe every single night. This, of course, kicked off an entire decade of the highest-selling shooter franchise in the world, Call of Duty. And Modern Warfare was the very genesis of the Call of Duty machine starting in 2007. But another shooter was entering into the atmosphere to rival Call of Duty and fulfill a legacy from Xbox. Halo 3 released in 2007 after a short delay and became one of Xbox's highest-selling games, with almost 15 million copies sold in the US alone, and it was only available on the Xbox 360. Halo 3 is thought to be one of the fans' favorites in the franchise, with dual wielding, big set pieces, and the return of the Flood, and an opportunity to finally finish the fight. In 2007, there was nothing quite like Halo, and it was at its very pinnacle under the talent of the early 2000s Bungie and Xbox's Microsoft Studios. In fact, Halo 3 helped popularize another 2007 game, which was made by the original designer of Grand Theft Auto, a sandbox cybernetic soldier cop game called Crackdown. Crackdown had early access via a beta disc on Halo 3, and this open world city of collecting orbs to power up, take down gangs and bad guys, hooked millions of gamers, and created its own sandbox genre that was never duplicated. Crackdown really shined when you could leap over buildings, pick up cars and throw them into crowds and gangs, and collect every single orb, which became an addicting game in and of itself. There were so many games this year that competed for our time playing multiplayer games on the 360, PS3, and PC, but no one expected Valve's Team Fortress 2, a multiplayer game built off of a mod for Quake. The fight between Red and Blue with game modes like Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, this literally molded and formed what would become the standard for multiplayer competitive gaming. With its whimsical, simplified, and corny graphics, Team Fortress 2 became a global phenomenon. 2007 really was a watermark for the combination of incredible visuals and tactile, immersive gameplay, and nobody surprised more gamers than Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed, a brand new franchise, a game set in the Holy Land during the Third Crusades In 1191, you play as a hooded assassin in a bustling ancient city that feels alive with gameplay that is focused more on stealth and organic gameplay as you hunt down political targets connected to a futuristic machine that controls this ancient ancestor. Assassin's Creed was so incredibly popular and well-loved that it spawned an annualized franchise of Assassin's Creed games that is still going on today in 2025. The spiritual successor to System Shock in 2007 saw the birth of BioShock, a first-person shooter that takes place in an underwater, post-apocalyptic city called Rapture, with Art Deco styling and the theme of augmenting the human body to the demise of the human race and against your god. This first-person shooter combined varied weaponry, magical elemental powers, and the twisting and turning narrative that kept us on the edge of our seats, frightened us, and left a lasting memory that still has fans waiting for a continuation of BioShock almost 20 years later. Nothing made more of an impact in 2007, a year that was already loaded with some of the most genre-defining, memorable games ever. And then there was BioWare's Mass Effect, a sprawling open-universe RPG in the vein of Star Wars and Star Trek, where you create your own character powered by biotics or cybernetics in a race to save the universe from total annihilation. Mass Effect, for its time, was incredibly immersive, cinematics looked lifelike, and the choice in dialogue and decisions you laid upon races in the galaxy made Mass Effect one of the most memorable series and spawned multiple sequels and is still one of the most beloved sci-fi games in the world. Die-hard fans will tell you that where it started with Mass Effect 1 was the most important in the franchise, had the most immersion, and really set the stage for an incredible trilogy that will never be matched again.
Oh my god! What did you do?
That might have been a little extreme, Commander.
There was no shortage of quirky, interesting games, and Valve's Portal was probably the most impressive, addictive, and surprising hit of 2007. A game no one asked for. A game based in the Half-Life universe where you shoot a dimensional portal gun to make your way out of puzzle-based rooms. This combines physics and interdimensional travel and quirky humor, and Portal pulled in an overwhelmingly diverse set of gaming fans and was one of the most popular games in 2007.
Thank you for helping us help you help us all.
By this year, PlayStation had already cranked out a ton of in-house first-party games, but Uncharted: Drake's Fortune from Naughty Dog was a smash hit from the start. Playing as a young Indiana Jones-type character, Nathan Drake has you globe-trotting across jungle ruins, crypts inspired by Tomb Raider, with a high emphasis on third-person cover shooting made famous by Xbox's Gears of War a year before this. Naughty Dog's penchant for cinematic quality, interesting, funny, and memorable characters was the ultimate juxtaposition between Sully and Nathan Drake, and this kicked off Uncharted series in 2007 with a big bang. Nintendo probably had some of the highest rated and most popular games, and they closed out 2007 with one of the biggest. And this was Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy was a three-dimensional platformer that was vibrantly presented with perfect controls, perfect animations, and creativity that took you across dozens of levels and became a fan favorite game of that year. And not only that, Nintendo was able to get the Game of the Year award for Super Mario Galaxy. Another big moment in 2007 was the integration of big flat panel TVs. Gamers were finally moving from 23 or 27-inch CRT TVs and adopting 40 to 60-inch flat panel plasmas or LCD TVs. This made gaming bigger with the introduction of HD graphics, HDMI connected consoles, with the ushering in of incredible games graphics and cinematic games that were arriving by 2007 on the PS3 and Xbox 360. Because we live in the now and we're waiting and anticipating our next biggest game. We're chasing the dragon, waiting for that next game to become memorable so we can hear the score of the soundtrack in our head when we're not playing. So memorable that we talk to our friends about every minuscule experience and mission, and so immersive that we play for hours and become lost in the world of a blossoming franchise. The problem is, for most of our favorite developers, way back in 2007, our favorite studios and publishers that made our favorite games in the early 2000s, they no longer work at those studios. In fact, Some of them no longer work in the industry at all. Right now, games like that took over the world by storm, especially in this generation with the Xbox Series consoles, PS5 and PC, the only games that come to mind that fully arrest us are emotionally memorable games like Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, or Baldur's Gate 3. The fact that the AAA market has all but faltered as our favorite studios no longer employ those people. There are exceptions, but for the most part, AA games are now dominating the Game of the Year discussion, leading the sales charts, and being the most impressionable and memorable games that we are playing in the 2020s. The concept of building a great character to fully realize an open world with a compelling story is too risky in the AAA market in the 2020s, where the game leadership, especially from Xbox and PlayStation, has been telling their studios that it's not viable to spend $300 million on a cinematic story that used to cost about $10 million in 2007. In the past, games didn't cost $300 million back then, and they didn't take 6 years to complete. With 1 to 2 years for game development on a sequel, you could continue to see 2 to 4 games in a franchise release in one console generation. Compile this on the fact that most of these big AAA games that are even based on major franchises or sequels were so loved 20 years ago have turned into disappointing letdowns. Looking at 2007, we may never see another technical leap like we saw with the early PlayStation 3 console and Xbox 360, when games became so cinematic with gameplay that was just as great as the cutscenes in massive living worlds. Seeing that great leap in generation of graphics. In 2007, games were changing the industry. But what if right now in the 2020s, the tried and true cinematic open world action adventure third person over the shoulder story narrative apocalyptic trope is nearing its time out of fashion? There is probably some new groundbreaking game type that hasn't seen the light of day because making a $200 million video game is extremely risky and devs are told to paint within the lines and just do their jobs. In a studio workforce that is so big and seeing so many layoffs and closures and canceled games, what used to make games great around 2007 is now lost on checking boxes that make the game appealing in a market and lucrative in revenue projections. Back in 2007, when a console was just under $300 and a game offered 40 to 50 hours of an incredible open world experience for about $60. The apex of gaming reaching its peak in immersive graphics and player choice has been on a roller coaster ride downhill as developers and gaming fans try to chase the glory we first discovered in the Xbox 360, PS3, and Nintendo Wii generation. With remakes and prequels like Oblivion and Gears E-Day showing that the 2007 era of gaming was peak. Hopefully devs and publishers can see what made games amazing, a simple formula of immersion, tactile gameplay, and strong, memorable characters and their stories. And only then will we get back to the best gaming we have seen in over 20 years. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. 2007 means a lot to me. My second kid was born that year, and it's when I finally got back to gaming. I took 10 years off after the Super Nintendo came out, got into the Xbox 360 in a really big way. In fact, I still have that original console that I got back in the early part of 2008. And what I did was just jumped into all of the games, which started mostly from big games that came out in 2007. I want to go back to when devs just cranked out really great games and followed an amazing formula that we still love today. If you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell if you want to be notified of new weekly content we're doing here on the channel. You can hit the join button below if you want to learn more about getting early access to videos some 10 or 12 hours before they go up public, and getting special privileges in the chat on the live show. Also, you can check out the Patreon, which will give you early access, many more features in the perks tiers, and merch giveaways like this Control Your Life shirt that I designed. So many things there on the website as well. Also, check out the Ecstasy podcast. We run that show every Monday live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll break down everything that's going on with Showcase. Everything is reported afterwards and so much more. What was your favorite game in 2007? Or if you have a different thing, what was your favorite year when you felt like gaming was at its absolute peak? Let me know in the comment section. And while you do that, as I always say, please be nice.